Hello, everybody. My name is Lukáš Zapata, and I'm from a Foreman community project. And we have a special guest here, Kyle Baker, who is a user interface designer. And the purpose of this video is to go through our Foreman initial setup. So that's what you guys do when you start with a clean Foreman installation. Either if you start from scratch using a development setup, that's what I will be showing today. Or if you start with our installer, which gives you a slightly more configured instance. And we will cover all the things we need to do to get provisioning and configuration working, focusing on usability things and all that nice stuff. We have some issues, we know, but it's best to hear some feedback from professionals. So what we are looking at right now, this is my development, clean development checkout. So this is what you get when this is actually a develop branch. Hopefully it works. And so this is what you get when you do rake seed and rake db migrate. So let's jump in. On the first screen, you'll encounter is that because I turned on my location and organization support, Foreman asks you to create a new location and organization. I'm not sure why location is first. I'd expect the organization to be first. That would be my first comment, maybe. But that's the way how it works. And by default, this is turned off. I've explicitly turned this on. So yeah, this is I'd say something explicit. So let me as you can see, we're using Bootstrap as our user interface. And it's pretty much default look and feel. So this is the new location wizard, which is presented when you click on a new location. It's a standard form, I guess. There are no changes, so I can create a new. Let's say my new location will be Brno. And on the second step, I should be able to select some hosts. But there are no present, so this step was skipped, and I'm taken to the locations list. Now, I already know that if I click on any of these links, I'll be taken to another wizard, and that will be organization, because we're still missing an organization. So this is also a little bit fuzzy. So once you click on something, it can be anything, you'll be redirected to a new organization page. And it works the same way. We need to set up an organization, because if organization and location support is enabled, then you need to have at least one. And Kyle, please interrupt me anytime you have a comment or something. Please do.
I will.
Creating a Red Hat, of course, and I think select hosts will be skipped as well. So we have our first organization and location. We can maybe review our, this is the standard list, this is the pattern we use. So we have some table, we have some action buttons here with a drop down. And once we click on this, we should see our organization page. So this one is pretty complicated, and it has changed since the last time I visited it. Let's get back to it later. I think that there are more things to cover. So finally, we are on the dashboard. This is the default landing page you are presented, and it works this way. If you don't have any hosts, you are presented with this welcome page, which describes you some first steps, really first instructions, what to do to get your first host registered. And it will automatically disappear once you created one or more hosts, and you can't go back. I think you can only if you remember the URL. So this is how it works. Now, it's a long way to get a host registered and maybe provisioned and configured. So we need to do some steps. As I said, Foreman installer, we've got a Puppet-based installer, which is called Foreman-installer. And if you use that, by default, it will configure Foreman application along with Foreman Smart Proxy, and it installs DNS, TFTP, and installs Puppet, configures Puppet server, and it registers the smart proxy into Foreman. So, and also it configures the Puppet agent to run on the host that is Foreman installed to. And because it defaults to the 30 minutes agent, in the 30 minutes agent will spin up and check in for the first time. And with that check-in, Foreman creates the first things like architecture, operating system, and that kind of stuff, which we'll cover in more details right now. So this is the change. This is the difference between package-based deployment and what we see here, Git clean, checkout. So because we haven't used our installer, we won't see any operating systems configured. We won't see any hosts. We won't see anything, and we need to configure them by ourselves. And that's I think the biggest weakness in our workflow, because it is a little bit fuzzy. Let's see. So first of all, if we want to provision operating systems, we obviously need to create an operating system entry. So this is the dialog we use for it. So let's say we want rel 6.5. Oh, I think we should create 10 OS. I'm not sure which version. Let me see. Let me see first. To go through the whole provisioning.
Quick question: how do you know what operating systems that you have, and how does it, populate that list? I mean, you could enter whatever you want, but it's got to pull from a repository someplace, right? You have to go to the CLI to locate what you have in the repository.
Exactly. Good point. So because on my poor internet, I'm not going to download the rel or CentOS from internet. I have some ISO files here, and I have a auto mount configuration, which this is exported via HTTPD. So I'll be able to export that and use that during our installation. So that's why I'm looking here, and I see I have CentOS 6.5, which should work here. So I guess if I go to HTTP localhost/repos file, no, without the ISO, I guess. Oh yeah, that's the so I'll create a CentOS 6.5. That answers your question. We want it to be fast. So let's do CentOS 6.5, and the description is really name and major and minor version are used in templates, and this is really internally, and the description is used. Have a different description for a totally different name and major version. Now, OS families is important because I need to properly set it to Red Hat. If I want to do that, I can only link like Red Hat templates against Red Hat operating systems and that kind of stuff. So I need to make sure this is populated properly. In the past, we had no architecture populated, but we now have our installer, our seed script, which is run. If you run if you deploy using an install, or if you do a git checkout, it will populate it, and so we don't need to create architectures anymore. So this is pretty straightforward. Now partition tables. I need to assign a partition table to this operating system. So obviously I want to select Kickstart default. This works, I guess, nicely. Now the installation media is a little bit different story. And I forgot to create the installation media, and I need to, right now, here's the flow. I need to go to the installation media and create a one. Let's skip it for now and do this later. Because I can select, for example, CentOS mirror, but let's redefine it later.
Can I ask you a question? What would be the ideal there? I suspect it would be you had already gone and set up the installation media before you even got to this step.
Yep. I think we are missing a new installation media button here that would bring you a form somehow that would not close this, work in progress, and then we could get back. Perhaps this is some nice to have, I'd say. Yeah. Because my workflow starts usually with operating systems. That's the first thing that you see and you understand. An operating system is what I want. So here we can see that maybe a button could bring you, but I'm not sure if we can technically not closing this window, if you can open another. I think it should be possible. And now that's the first, I think, big thing we have. If you click on switch over to templates, you'll see this. It's not possible to provision templates, to assign provision templates, because you need to save the record. Because we don't have this operating system record yet, we are not able to link templates to it. So this is something weird. I'm not sure what's the design pattern here. And I really need to ask you what do you recommend here. I was thinking maybe we could hide the templates tab, and once this is saved using the submit button, we could present immediately after the save dialog another one, like please select templates or something like that.
Well, my question is you can actually go to the templates area, the provisioning templates section of the tool, and then add them to an OS at that particular point. So I don't know why we need to add it in both locations. We could just have it appear here. I don't even. Why would you even need to see what provisioning templates are associated with the operating system?
That's a fair point, and we'll be covering that because you need to do this from both sides, and this is also it's this particular problem with the templates tab is part of a bigger problem you just mentioned. We need to somehow link them from the both sides, which is poor user experience, and to be honest, I don't know what's the limitation there and why we're doing that. And if we technically can somehow assign, just with one window or something, let's go through it and then we can talk about this.
Okay.
Parameters. It's something I don't usually. That's the way how it works, but I'm not. It's not. I think it's not widely used. So now, once this is saved, I should be able to go back and select a template. But as you mentioned, you can't do that because we need to first select the templates. First associate the templates with this operating system, and then we can. I know. I think I know. I'll explain later. Yeah, why, and I think we can fix this. Okay, so let's create an installation media. We assigned a mirror, which is slow in my case. So let's go to installation media. This is pre-populated with some default mirrors. It works with most versions. Creating a new media is pretty much it's very easy. Which one is that? This one. And I can maybe make it more generic. Architecture. So this should all the versions I have downloaded. And now operating system family again. I need to select this because otherwise I won't be able to link this with Red Hat operating system. Now, since locations and organizations are active, I need to make sure that if I want to use this installation media in any location, I need to make sure it has been selected here. So I need to always click on this.
Can I ask you a question real quick? The order of operations which you're completing right now, do you do that because that's what has to be available in order to move on? For instance, installation media, like we're looking at here, you have to have the operating system family configured before you even can configure this, and you just know that, right?
Good question. I don't know. I think I just I'm randomly picking up terms. The reason for that was I have this installation media in my selection, so I was like, let's do this now. But you are not forced to do this in this order, I guess. No.
Would you say that there's a best practices order of operations that
let me
most
see.
people would follow?
Yeah. I think most people will start with operating system. I think because it's the first entry here and also somehow readable if you are starting with Foreman. And also I'm a little bit experienced with Foreman. I'm also starting operating systems for some reason. But then you're right. You need to do some things in order. For example, you can assign a provision template to an operating system to be available for a selection in an operating system after you create an operating system. So it's in this order: operating system first, templates there, and then partition table is some you can create it before or after. You can reassign. Obviously, if you do that before, and this is the same for installation media, hardware model and architecture. Architecture, I'd say. I'm not sure about hardware model. But if you do them before operating system, you don't need to revisit the operating system page again. So that's the order, I'd say. To be honest, I'm not pretty sure where hardware model is used. Let's see later. So I created the installation media, and let's do the provision templates now. Provision templates are auto-populated using our seed scripts, which means you get them, if we have both Git installation or the package-based installation, you get them all. It's a 2 pages actually, and we default to 25, I guess, 25 per page. You can change it in settings. We have a quite nice setting dialog, and you can change that. But by default, it's 25, which is Kickstart is still on the first page, which is good because I use the RHEL and Fedora mostly. So what we need to do is, if we want to, let's assign all the templates we could possibly use. So that is Kickstart default. That is our provisioning script for Anaconda. So you need to click on the template. Now you can review, of course, the template content. We won't be changing because it works out of box. We can only check that this is the provision, right? This is correct. And now the association here, I need to select the operating system here and click on Submit. And so that was a Kickstart template. Now I want a Pixel Linux template because I will be Pixel booting the operating system as well. Again, I need to click on CentOS 6.5, and the last one would be Kickstart. Would be Finish script, which is not needed for bare metal provisioning, but we can associate it. And if we plan, I won't be showing this in this video, but if we use OpenStack or any other image-based provisioning, we can use Finish scripts for that, and that's it. So now what happened was that if you go to operating system, which we created, and click on templates, you should be able to select these templates for this host. And this is flexible for the reason that because you can be installing CentOS 6.5 or the very same operating system with a different provisioning scripts. For example, you want operating systems like for web servers or for database servers, something like that. You could you could have a different provisioning template. So for this reason, this is a little bit more flexible, and to
so you've just made those provisioning templates available to the operating system. You haven't even actually added them yet.
Right, right.
Oh,
And
wow. All right.
I think the usability improvement would be because for some reason we rely on the nils here, or the nothing, and maybe we could ultimately, if a first template is given to to an operating system, we could automatically pre-select them, and I think this is doable, and I think that it would save us, because it always, we see users that, hey, I've made my template available to my system, but it's not working, because you'll see, if I can do this, if I do a new host, and if I click on, we'll cover that, but operating system, if I do, and this is really, we need to talk about this, is I don't like it. If I click on Resolve Provision Templates, it will tell you no templates were configured. So in this case, we need to tell them, go back to the operating system, and you need to really assign those. So I think we should improve this by auto pre-selecting the first one, and then if you add more, then you really need to somehow differentiate it, select the.
I agree. There's so far you've for the provisioning templates, you've tried to add them 3 times and they haven't been added yet. So when you got here, when you went over to there, to the provisioning templates area, and now you're back here, it's like 3 steps to add them. There's no way anybody would be able to figure that out. So I think that's something we should look at for sure.
Exactly. And maybe one step further, because I do this like twice a week or something when I need to test something with the empty database. I think we could also somehow, if a RHEL or Fedora operating system was created, and we know that it's Red Hat back, we've selected that the operating system we've created was Red Hat, I think type. We have the information here too, because we know that this is type in the plate of, let's see, I think it's somewhere here. We know that this is type of Red Hat too, or don't we? So my point is we could also select this association too, but maybe not this one. Only the provisioning templates I have type, I guess. No, so I was wrong. Maybe we could somehow, using some heuristics, we know that Kickstart default will work with Red Hat, so we could pre-select that too, or maybe present some nice style of, hey, like an Office helper. Hey, you just added a Red Hat operating system. Do you want to add a provision templates, this and this one, maybe? That would be fantastic. All right, so I think we have complete operating system now. That looks fine, and we should be able to provision it. Let me check. So we have architecture, OS family, Kickstart default, installation via templates, and parameters are not used for the moment, and that's it. Yeah. So let's go to new host. New host. So we have a list of hosts, and we can go using this new host or the green one. I particularly like this one because I do it every single day, 10 times a day. So let's say test 1. So
gosh, I have one question. So you like that new host is in the menu?
Yeah.
Do you think that there are other places where you'd like to see that kind of functionality, like the actions in the menu? Like new added operating system or that stuff? Or do you think just new host?
I think the host is really mostly used, and once you set things up and you're dealing with hundreds of, if you are interested in rolling out the Foreman, you're dealing with tens, hundreds, thousands, maybe hosts, so you're defining them quite often. And operating system is something you don't change very often. Like rel comes out in few month cycles, and that's the same for other systems. So I think host is great fit. Don't know for the others. I don't really think that.
Can I ask you? I want to ask you one more question. Well, I probably ask you a lot more than that, but when they configure when the users come in here to configure a new host, they're only going to do a handful. I mean, they're not going to do 50, for example. At that point, they would have to do some sort of automation through like a CLI or through like the API, right? I mean, this use case is for somebody who's going in and configuring like 4 or 5. Would you say that's a pretty common method?
I think we can cover our plugin, which is called Discovery and Foreman Discovery, which is something what I think Mark Shuttleworth called Medaless service. And when you're dealing with like 20, 30 new hosts per week, you don't want to really click on this 30 times. So you can either use an API, you're right, or maybe if you're dealing with bare metal provisioning, because you always need somehow to install bare metal and first, and once you have an OpenStack infrastructure service and that kind of stuff, then that's a different story. But the first step is always bare metal, and Foreman is great in delivering, the best bare metal installation experience and configuration experience. Then you would use, and I highly recommend to use Foreman Discovery, which and we can cover that, which adds a new entry here, discovered hosts. And once you set up your templates and TFTP and DHCP infrastructure, it will allow you to provision bugs which are discovered, which are not known to the Foreman. And you can currently you're able to provision them one by one, but it's a short-term, I'd say, plan to allow users to click on 20 hosts and then click on deploy, assign groups, and do this at once. That's the plan we would like to see. So I'd say that it's a good fit for Discovery plugin. But in pure Foreman, you can't really. You need to do this by one by one.
And so the plan is to have a special plugin that people can install in order to handle, hosts at scale, right? That's the idea.
Yeah,
and
we have
keep Foreman, so keep the actual base Foreman, so it's just the way we're doing it now.
Yeah, exactly, and we have it. It works, but with the only exception, you need to do this one by one. I can show you. This is my clean installation without any plugins enabled, and I can enable it very easily and show you how this works.
I definitely want to see that. But
Okay.
my other question is the Foreman Discover popular? Do a lot of people use it?
I would say we ship like 10, let's say 10 plugins. These are official, fully supported plugins, and Discovery is one of these. And I think it's widely used.
I'm just curious why we wouldn't edit the base Foreman UI in order to handle that mass functionality, like the deploy the mass amount of host functionality instead of having it as a plugin. Is it a technical reason, or just curious?
Well, actually, what we want to do and what's our long-term plan is to separate everything as a plugin. We have this. This was the big feature of 1.4. I think we have we had this pluginization, I'd say, and we turned some things into plugins. For example, compute resources. If you want other VMware support, you're installing plugin today, and I can show you. Let me see. If I do, it will show you all. This is our yesterday's nightly installation, and we'll see all the plugins there. We ship, we fully support, and as I've said, Discovery is one of these. But a lot of things are now in plugins, and our approach is to take some things. Last effort was to turn all the compute resources into plugins. So you can see the Discovery plugin here, and I'm not really sure.
Can I ask? why you decided to turn this, like the functionality that you just showed me, like the compute resource and the, you know, the discover and all that stuff. Why did you choose those features as plugins?
Because it allows modularity. If you don't like Zen, you really you don't install, you don't have the SAN if you create, let's say, new host. And this is good question is, oh yeah, I don't see any, oh yeah, I don't have any compute resource yet. So let's see, let's create a compute resource, and I'll show you, and I'll get back to you with this question. And
actually, if you want to just keep going through your process the way you were doing it before, that was really helpful.
yeah,
And I can ask more questions after.
okay, that was great question, and I'll show you. If this is my development setup and I have it all there, I think I'm not missing a single provider here. But if you're into, I don't know, EC2 or VMware, so you just install a plugin, and then you have it only here, and everything else is left out. It won't be able to. So that's the one reason. So it's a simplification and modularity. So you don't need to, you don't have that huge code base. And yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah,
it just means you have a lot less to ship, basically.
Yeah, and also if you have something as a plugin, then after pluginization, a lot of effort from our community, great effort, landed, core Foreman, and we were very happy to see, like, I think Google Compute Engine was provided by our community, Rackspace, VMware is, as well as EC2 are maintained by our community users. So that separation allowed the users to add more and more, because they can live and they can develop with their own pace. As long as we want, as we keep our API stable, they can work on their. They don't need really to wait until Foreman 1.6, which is the next release that comes out, and they can fix their bugs and make a minor releases and that kind of stuff. So it allows a better adoption. So let's create. We'll be using libvirt for my example. I have a Fedora laptop here, so let's say.
So if you're not doing bare metal, you're coming here first.
Right. We can do bare metal first, and then good point. We'll do bare metal first. QEMU SSH. That's not QEMU. I think it's QEMU / system. Let's do VNC, whatever. Console password. Let me test the connection. And this was the usability. I don't know. Thing. It was a gray, and once I clicked it and it worked, it somehow turned green. If I do something wrong, it makes. This is the standard. This is our standard. We are using Ruby on Rails. This is the Ruby on Rails way of showing bugs or showing mistakes in a form. So the mistake is here. So we're presenting it as a red box. So this is tested. This works across the. I say this test connection works across the compute resources and all the things. So I guess that's it. I have got my libvirt, and now let's do the first host as a bare metal host. You said it right. Bare metal is what we do. There's a host group concept, so you can pre-select some things and store them as a host groups, and then you can select from host groups. And once you select, it will be pre-selected. But let's leave that, because we want to see how painful it can be in creating new hosts.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Question real quick. So if the user was going to do bare metal, they knew they needed to start it there. They would go to compute resource first, probably, and then. The other thing is your organization location automatically selected?
Oh yeah.
I didn't see you click it if you did.
Yeah, let's.
No, I mean under hosts, not under the organization tab. So when you came here to click new host, was this automatically Red Hat and Brno selected?
Oh yeah. Yeah. It was, and because because Foreman tends to be multi-tenant application. If you or once you turn on organizational location support, you really need to put everything into at least some organizational location. We are working in any context mode, which means that you are some, I'd say, Uber administrator. So you are the one that is, for example, selling the infrastructure as a service using Foreman. But once you select an organization, you only select the organization you are given with permissions. So this was pre-selected, and yeah, it works this way. Here, for example, we haven't touched Puppet yet, so I haven't created Puppet environment, so we see it empty, but it won't hurt us to continue to carry on. Oh, totally forgot. Yeah, totally forgot. We can't create our new host yet. I totally forgot about infrastructure. We don't have any infrastructure set up, so we can't continue. So let's go and get back to it. First of all, we need to register smart proxy. I thought that we used, when you use our installer, you can carry on because you have your smart proxy registered, but we don't. So let's create one.
And you would say that's the common way to install is with that installer, not just git mirror.
Yes, exactly.
So right now, this is not the normal workflow.
Well, it is because the default installation sets you smart proxy and it auto registers it to Foreman. But if you're working on a production instance, you don't want to run your smart proxy on your Foreman box. Maybe you have a three networks with 3 domains, or 3 networks with 2 domains, and you want the 3 or 2 smart proxies. So then you can use our installer to install the smart proxies, just smart proxies on these hosts. And then you need to go here and register them. So for this reason, it's good to see the whole clean workflow, because some users eventually need to hit those forms.
Fair enough.
So HTTP I think that's it. Hopefully, I think the port number is correct on my. Yeah, we don't have test button here, which maybe looks like a wrong thing. I think we should. We lost it because I thought that it was there. Anyway, once I've saved it, this form works the way if you enter something wrong and try to submit it, it would prevent you from doing that, because as you can see. After I saved, it automatically discovered my features. So because you can have multiple smart proxies, one smart proxy, for example, could host a THTP and DNS server, and the other Puppet and Puppet CA. So it automatically discovers these features which you configured on those smart proxies. You configure smart proxies via configuration files. You can always, if you restart a smart proxy with a new enabled feature, for example, I would add a Puppet CA, which is the last remaining feature we don't see here. We also have a pulp feature, but so you can always click on refresh features, and it would automatically discover what is available. And this is very important. If you won't do that, you won't be able to, for example, if you forget to add a DHCP. So the HTTP would be missing here. You would not be able to configure your subnets. So it's very important. Let's go. Go ahead.
One more question. Would you say it's common to have multiple smart proxies? I would think that would be, because you'd have, if somebody was going to deploy this widely, they're going to have multiple, I want to say, not locations, but I mean like resource locations. If they have their own, let's say, private cloud or whatever, they're going to have different smart proxies configured in order to manage that. So if they deploy this widely in a large organization, they're going to have multiple, right?
Right, and it's very, very common, I'd say, because for a larger deployments, you usually have multiple subnets, and usually for each, well, it's not for each subnet, but for each DHCP server, I would expect, I think you need a separate smart proxy. So I'd say it's common.
So when you actually do the installation, it will set up for you by default, but you're going to have a single one at that point, but you can add more after, right?
Right.
Okay, cool.
By default, we install a smart proxy on the same host, but you can, unregister it or whatever. It's just our defaults are sane enough, so we can start with evaluation if you are trying to, find out if Foreman is a good fit for you, and if so that's the same default. So I'd say you'd ask me a few moments ago about the ordering, and I think here on this infrastructure tab, the ordering is smart proxy, and then you want to do subnet and domain, and compute profile and compute resource is in the order first resource then profile, but it's completely separate from this. So let's go to subnet. So first, you need to create new subnet. So that's something that you'll be doing your reservations. And I said it wrong. I think you need to create domain first and then subnet, because then you need to turn go back. So I think it's better to start with smart proxy, domain, and then subnet. So let's go to the domain. Oh, maybe let's do it the wrong way so we can see what's the deal here. Oh yeah, and first of all, you can do this manually, but as you can see, it's a lot of effort. We have a nice feature here. If you go to a smart proxy, that would mean that we can maybe warn new by users, newcomers. That's if they start typing in, we can warn them. Hey, you can go to infrastructure smart proxies and import the subnet. If you do that, because the DHCP can tell you some information, you can save some time. In this case, I'm using a simplified infrastructure provider, which is libvirt.sh provider I wrote some time ago, and it's very limited. It's for development purposes, so it won't fill you much.
So let me ask you this: could we, when under subnets, could we have that available there, import, instead of just having to create new one from scratch?
That's a good point. We could add it, but you need to we could add it for each particular. I think there would be some kind of drop down, and you would need to select a smart proxy from you want to import from. So in this case, since this is limited provider, it won't fill you much information. But if you do IHC, DHCP server, it will fill you much more, like everything, including I guess it's everything. So if you have a multiple subnets, you can click on these. There are several hyperlinks here, because I only have one. There's one hyperlink. So if you have multiple of these, I think there are somehow thrown on this page, one behind the other. So we can click and switch over from one to another. It's maybe but I have only one. So it's.
Do you think the average skill level of somebody deploying Foreman are going to have trouble knowing this information for all of these?
Yeah, we can. We have users that's we have users that are professionals, and are when they see this, they pretty much know what to do. But we have also novice users who struggle with these things, struggle with DHCP DNS configurations, TFTP, and setting that up. So, well, we can see some users that are not they don't know what they're doing here. But we have some help texts here. So let's do this. We will fill in a gateway, primary DNS server, secondary. It's not important, and let's say we want 100 to 200 DHCP range, and that's it. So notice that this form is a little bit different. It's a special. The import subnet is different from the new subnet one. So if I click on that, I'm taken to the subnet list, and then I can click and finish this dialog. So as you can see, that was where I was before I started with the import subnet, and that on that dialog we should maybe add considering a button or drop down as you suggested. So we are here back, And we need, so to complete this, we need to select a domain, and obviously I should start with domains because I'm not able to select one. Again, this is the same situation with operating systems. We could add a new domain here and somehow create another layer of dialog box to create a new domain, perhaps. Proxies, we need to select which smart proxy will be serving for each particular service for this subnet. So we have only one, and it has features. So I'm able to select if I don't have a TFTP smart proxy, featured smart proxy, it won't be here, so I won't be able to select. I think this is pretty clear, but some users sometimes forget to set these, and I did this also. So then you can see some errors. So let's go to domains and create a new domain, and then we can fix the subnet. So domain is pretty much the virtual line or whatever, and DNS proxy is localhost. Parameters, the same situation for operating systems. You can add some extra parameters here for your hosts, but it's not that, I'd say it's not that widely used. So let's go back to, sure.
One question. So for your domain, when you're creating that new domain, it asks you what, and a few of these other objects, it asks you what organization you want to add it to. So if you're in an organization, does it show the other organizations and give you the option to add it to there?
Only in case you have permissions. So we can cover that if.
So let's say I don't have permissions for the Red Hat organization because we've got a couple other ones or whatever. So if I go back to that domain and it's asking which organization I want it in, I won't see Red Hat as an option to add it to.
Right. You won't be able to add it. Yeah. So I'm back to the subnet list, and I can now finally select a domain for that subnet, and we're done. This is quite new, and to be honest, I'm visiting this for the first time in my life. So I can't tell you how this works. Integration with IPA or Active Directory is something new in 1.5 Foreman, and I guess this is not installed, so I won't be able even to create one. And the compute resource, we already have one, and what's fairly new and was introduced in 1.4, I guess, is compute profiles. So so you can predefine for this particular, you can predefine common sets of compute profiles for each particular compute resources. So we have one resource that is libvirt. So for libvirt, you can create your own something you can call a small or medium compute profile. So we pre-populate with this 1, 2, 3, small, medium, large. This is maybe fair to explain. If you ever created a VM on OpenStack, there is a dialog box when you're creating a new VM asking you for a type, or I think they call it flavor, and we have by default you have a large, medium, extra large, but it's sorted by alphabets. It's not a small, medium, large, but it's in a different random order, so it's sometimes hard to select if you have a more than, I think it defaults to 7. So for this reason we're adding as a workaround until we solve this somehow nicely, we add a number so it's sorted in a correct order. So I can create maybe a new one. This is very easy dialog with only one field, super extra. And then you can assign this extra large. You can assign number of CPUs and that kind of stuff. We can cover this when we will be creating our first hosts. I won't be storing any compute profile for our purposes. So let's get back to hosts, because I think finally we have enough info to spawn a new instance, or at least to create a new bare metal host entry, and let's do this right now. I haven't set up Puppet yet, so we skip the environment and Puppet master. And Puppet classes as well, we can cover it later. So let's go to the network tab, and this is the workflow that you do every day, and like this is very common. This form is, you know, the most important in the whole Foreman. I guess that's new host. So you give it a name. You should not, you must not give it include any dots, because it automatically adds a domain you select. So it will be the host name will be test1 dot. I think I've called virtual LAN, so it will add it. So if you do that, it will, you know, and try to submit it, it will tell you no. Organization location is pre-selected. Host group, we don't have any, and it's empty usually, so you need to explicitly set it if you want a host group. Deploy is by default bare metal, and so if you want something else, you need to click. Environment and Puppet master is by default empty always. If you have a one environment like production only, you need to always select production here. It's by default empty. Let's keep Puppet classes for now, and let's go to network. In network, you need to first select domain which you want to use, and we're skipping realm for obvious reasons. And now we're provisioning bare metal, so we need to enter MAC address. This is a required option. You can't skip it because it won't work. You need to enter a valid MAC address. And when we'll be doing a libvirt or, you know, VMware overt, you obviously don't need to create a MAC address, because it will create its own. It will generate its own.
Can I ask a question? Do you, for this type of host, if you know it's going to be bare metal, you can then basically, if you select the type of host, bare metal, it should basically tell you, or could tell you, what fields you absolutely have to fill out for bare metal, right?
Right. Yeah.
As part of an option.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we don't tell the user in advance. What we do is, if you try to submit, it will warn you. It will error out. Let's see.
Do you think it would be helpful to know in advance what you have to fill out?
It's a very good point, and I think it's a fair point. We should tell this to the user. I think it's good idea. So let's do this again. After I selected the domain, I'll be able to, you know, this drop down is populated with the subnets which are associated with this domain, and if I click on subnet, it will automatically reserve an address for me. Here's the, what was that? Oh yeah, sorry. Here's some help, because this was confusing for some users recently, so we've added some extra text, and you can also click on suggest new if you're not happy with the IP address that was reserved. Now, operating system is the longest, I'd say. Well, not the longest. Puppet classes are long enough, but this one needs some love, I think, because to select an operating system, you need to go. Everything is empty by default, as you can see. Now you need to select an architecture first, which is in 99%, you know, 64. Then operating system is populated, so you need to select operating system. And I think we could combine these into one drop-down with sorted by architecture and operating system, and in the form of CentOS and in brackets architecture. That would be, you know.
One question. So when we added the operating systems, we only added, when you added them, I can't remember. I think it was, we added that single operating system, and we made that repository available, and that contained all of CentOS or all of the operating systems?
And that contained, I can show you, that contained, it's just a link. Basically, it's just a link with an URL that has some variables in it, and these are major minor version architecture. So it basically, when the operating system is selected, this one, it will Foreman will substitute those and then hand this path or URL over to Anaconda, which starts installing. So it's basically really a path, nothing else.
So under operating systems, then, do you see all of the architectures for each one of the operating systems?
Yeah, you can assign one operating system to multiple architectures. So yeah, as long as you use your architecture variable in installation media, it will work. And as long as, yeah.
So the installation media tab is where you're setting the path where the operating system information comes from, and then at that point you're just filtering what's available based here, filtering the operating systems available that are coming from that path. And now we're going to go to hosts, and then we are going to specify what we've filtered in the operating system section.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I only have one, so it's not obvious. Sorry about that, but yes,
that's okay.
That's what you do, and I think we should somehow think how can we simplify this, because you do this every single, well, what you can do is you can create a host group, and that's what our users do. They create a host group, and host group defines everything we see here can be predefined by a host group. So they usually create a host group like base host group where they maybe define their Puppet classes, their SSH keys, and that kind of stuff, which is which is something they want to be present on all their operating systems they deploy, and then they can create, because the host groups is a hierarchy structure. It's a tree based, so you can then create a new host group that has parent host group that was defined before. Like I usually call this a base or something, and then I can create maybe CentOS 6.5 or a host group that defines operating systems bits and that kind of stuff. So
that makes sense. Can we go through that workflow?
Sure. Sure.
Okay.
So the argument that experienced Foreman users usually do is, I don't use this, but the very same form is in the host groups. So we'll see. So installation media, again, because I've selected operating system, everything we assign associated with this operating system is presented here. So this is the media partition table. I can add some more things to the partition tables here in this box, and I need to give it a root password, I guess. Or if I leave it empty, it will work too. And I can click on resolve and see all the templates which are being used. I can even click on these. I've did it in a new tab, and I'll be taking to the template which is being used. And now parameters, we can see this dummy one pre-created, and also I can create a new ones. These parameters are mostly used in templates, and they are not used in. They can be used also in Puppet, but they are mostly used in the like Anaconda if you want. Users usually put a time zone here or something like that. And additional information that go there. Yeah, here's the hardware model. It's only something you want to use for recording purposes and comments. So let's do this. Oh, and as we can see, here's the one flaw. Puppet environment can't be blank because Puppet is deeply integrated in Foreman because of its history. Foreman was basically a UI for Puppet, and provisioning was added later. We need to predefine, or we need to define a Puppet environment. So let's do this in a separate tab. I don't want to lose my work here. So I click on a configure. Sorry, I click on configure an environment, and here I can create a new Puppet environment. And it's a very easy. Form, but I want to show you that there's a nicer thing. If you have Smart Proxy, with the Puppet feature enabled, you'll see here a button. And if you have more, I think it's a drop-down, and you can import existing environment from an existing Puppet master, which it's a server with the Puppet manifests deployed on. And my development has 3 modules in, so this is a nice user interface that allows you to update existing things by importing Puppet manifest. Foreman learns about Puppet classes you have, their structure, their parameters, and documentation, I guess. So it's something you do very often. Every time you update, manifest or update to a new version or add a new one, you can do this using this configure environments and then import from your Puppet master. So once I click on update, it will somehow download all these manifests and add them as a Puppet classes. So we can see that, and also if I click again, it will show me that there are no changes. But as you can see, it offered me to also, it's a synchronization tool. So it found that I had previously had a Puppet environment defined that was not found in Puppet master. I've selected, and it allowed me to delete it because it was it's a synchro-like thing. So because I clicked on all, I checked both lines, it was cleared out. So as you can see, it imported the Puppet classes here, and as you can see, it's quite a number of classes.
How often do you think people are messing with these classes that are inside of this that Puppet master?
I say very often, because if you're doing configuration management, you're configuring and you're changing on configuration quite often, and that's the pattern that is used. And so you change your code, fix bugs, and every time you don't need to import every time you change a line, but if you add a new parameter and you want to use and override this parameter in a Foreman user interface, you need to import it because you want to see it. So I'd say it's used very often, and more than that, I think by default we install a cron job that does this for you. Not sure if it's enabled by default, but it's there, and you can do this via externally. So yeah, we have a Puppet environment now. So I need to click on submit again, so this page reloads, and now I can see it. What is going on? I can see it. Environments. Oh, is the environment assigned to location and organization? It isn't. Sure. This is rather bug. We should. Yeah, it's not bug. It would be assigned if I. Yeah, it would be assigned, I guess, because I'm working on any context, any organization. It wasn't. So for this reason, let me reload this page once again. Yeah, and we have it here. Yeah, for some, I haven't set my default password, so I enter some because it won't work. And we have it. We have our own bare metal installation host entry. So nothing happened. Nothing is building right now. We only created the new host, which means that Foreman deployed its DHCP, TFTP, and DNS configuration. Everything is set up. So if a host with this MAC address boots up, the network will already know and start provisioning. This is what we call build mode. So this host is automatically taken to a build mode. So everything on the TFTP server is set up, and the provisioning can start. I can easily cancel the build mode, so it will go to a standard production mode. So if I start my server now, it it would try to boot from a local disk, and in that case, it would fail. Perhaps I can always click on build mode again. It would warn me because it's very dangerous, because if you have a production, let's say, or even any kind of server running, and you click on build mode and you confirm this, which I'm going to do now, on the next reboot, it would be completely deleted and reinstalled. So this is how it works. This is how you use Foreman in everyday usage with bare metal, which was not interesting. Maybe we can go back to the edit host form, which is pretty much same by using the edit link, edit button. As you can see, there are some things you can't change, but most of them you can. Now let's create another one now to see full provisioning, and let's do this. Let's say it's test 2, and now let's assign it a Puppet Master, and we'll be deploying some puppets. So I've selected the Puppet Master I want to fetch Puppet manifests from, and this is, I think I've said operating system was the most complicated one. I think this one is the most complicated one, and it's where you select the Puppet classes you want to apply on this host. So let's say I want Apache PHP and whatever I want, a firewall, Red Hat firewall manifest, and this is how you select your classes. Then everything else is the same. No, sorry, I don't want bare metal. I want libvirt. So if I click on deploy on drop down, a new virtual machine tab was created. And few things changed in these forms. So network is the same. I am selecting. No, it's not. I'm not. Notice that I'm not filling. I don't need to fill in the MAC address. Operating system is also a little bit different, because now I'm presented with a network-based or image-based provisioning. Obviously, we don't support image-based provisioning for bare metal, although this is technically possible. As there are some open source projects that and proprietary projects that supports that. We are not there yet. So, but this is a new thing that appears when you select virtualization. So I'm going to do a network-based. I don't have an image associated. That's maybe another workflow we can cover if we have time, and associating images with compute resources. Okay, and now virtual machine, I'm fine with defaults. I'll select the virtual rather than a bridge. Network can be default, virt.io.
So you're specifying hardware specifications for wherever you're deploying this, right?
Right. I'm specifying network interfaces, and I can add more using this green button. So I can.
So there's no way to know what resources are available at this point. It's just guessing how many CPUs and memory or whatever.
Right.
There may not actually be that much memory available.
Right. Yeah. That's right. We don't have this, and that's something we would like to see a plugin to providing you. Actually, I wrote some things that's just for starters, but it's not integrated yet. We don't have this information, but you can still create a VM, and hopefully there are enough resources. So here we can create a new disk, maybe 1 gig allocation, and you can allocate full, allocate to a specific size, or don't pre-allocate. You can select the type, raw or copy on write to which is, this is different from each particular compute resource. So this is libvirt, so you're familiar with the, standard libvirt, VM creation process, so that's the same. So I can do this. I can, using the green button, I'm creating new entries, and using the red one, I can delete it. So I think for this 5 gigs should be 4 gigs. And I want to power on this machine. Right, parameterization information is not needed. Hopefully this works. So now Foreman is doing hard work. You could see a green progress bar. This was very quick. It's running on my laptop, but if you have like some big box, big hardware, and disk creation can be slow. So Foreman is, in that case, you should see step 1 creating a DHCP record, step 2 creating DNS, that kind of stuff, and step 7 spawning the VM and waiting for it to spin up and that kind of stuff. We can go to, as you can see, there are more buttons here because Foreman knows more information about this VM, about this host, because it's in a VM. And so for bare metal, you would have only delete and cancel and edit. Now we have where we can power it on and off, console, and explicitly run Puppet. Here, this is not enabled on my smart proxy. So if you go to console, we should see Anaconda booting up, and for some reason it doesn't work. Why do I have this? Oh, I see. Settings. I need to go to settings and change my provisioning unattended URL, because by default it uses your host name, and my network was it 100? I'm not sure. I guess so.
Yes.
122. Never mind. I can go go back, and oh, it was not saved for some reason. Okay. And is that root password? Let's say Red Hat. And I guess maybe I need to change something else. I guess that's it. Not sure. Hopefully it works. So we should see my virtual machine now installing. So I go back to console, and with the magic triple key press, I'll be able to see it going on. So I think we've covered. It has some Puppet classes assigned, so it should also. Oh, I didn't show you how to actually. Actually, we can go back to the host. Actually, assign parameters, which is which I can do. It's a different Puppet classes. So in Puppet classes, you can, for example, let's say PHP is the class you want to allow users when they are creating a new host. You want to allow them to specify some things there. This one has no parameters. Let's say Apache. I think Apache will have much more. Yeah. So let's say, I don't know which one. Service enable, boolean default value true. So we want to allow users to specify this. We can give it some descriptions. So guys, please enable something, so we can override it. So we can allow them to override it, It's Boolean. This defaults, let's say, it's false by default, and we can even do some things, some magics like validate the input if it's like from a list or something, or we can also define some variables according to some magic rules, like if the memory is higher than 8 gigs, then set this port to, I don't know, whatever, and that kind of stuff. I don't do this much often, very often, so I think we have some, here is some explanation here, but anyway, you can do this here in this dialog, and we can just leave it, and this is called smart. This is called smart variables. We can just leave simple boolean defaults to false, and if I click on submit, and then if I click on the host, we should be able to override this or explicitly set this to true or false. Let's see, is that working? Oh, it doesn't work. It still tries. Oh, I know. I need to. Again, I've changed my global setting, and what I need to do is to cancel build. And I need to put it in a build mode again, because that would, at that moment, that it will redeploy my TFTP configuration, which has changed. But I can have a chance to override the parameter I showed you in the Puppet parameter, but I don't see it here. But it works the same way. I can click on override and set it to a different value. I think I forgot to do something in the Puppet. Puppet
That's
class.
okay. I understand. Could you talk about host groups?
Sure. Let's do this. Let's just restart it, and let's go back to it when it's ready. So host groups, right. So where is it? Infrastructure. Host groups. Here, it's configured to the top. I don't know, I usually set a host group and then I use it all the time, and I was searching a good case maybe for you to let me explain my thinking. I was like, oh, this is a host related, so I was trying to find it here, because it's, host groups are for hosts, but it's in the configure section, wherever. So it works the same way. The form is very similar. You give it a name. Like I said, I usually create the base.
The problem with that is it's not actually a group of hosts, which is a little weird.
Yeah. The naming convention is host versus systems. We used host for, I think, for the reason that the Foreman is usually used. I mean, the naming convention maybe comes from Puppet.
The host part is fine. I think the group part is the part that's the issue. It's more like a host template. Right.
So let's say base. I want to, in my base template, I always want the, I don't know, Firewall Linux template, and I want network to always be virtual LAN, this one, and that's it. So that would be my, and Puppet. Let's set Puppet 2. So that would be my base template. As you can see, the form is essentially the same. If I click again on a new host, I'm presented with a parent. This was missing because there were no parents, no host groups at all. I'm able to select the base, and then I'm able to give it a different name. Let's say CentOS. And as you can see, this is inherited. I can still override it in here, but I won't do that. And so I could select a different subnet for this sub host group, and I'm in. Is this no? This I want to override this one because this is CentOS. So I will be using this, Not setting a root password, and maybe I want to set a parameter or something. This is pre-selected correctly. All right, so now we should see the hosts are nested and separated by slash. So this is base / CentOS 65. I can also do use this drop down and nest it. From here, it will pre-select the parent here, but the rest is all the same. So as you can see, it's essentially the same form. Everything is the same, except we don't see a compute resource related stuff. So we don't see VM, we don't see if this is a bare metal or whatever, ref or overt. So you can't set it here. So once you have it, we can go back and create a new host. And if we only usually need to give it some name and then select the host group. As you can see, this is pre-filled, everything's pre-filled. So Puppet classes should be pre-filled. Network, obviously, this is so let's select libvirt, and also so this is all information required. This is all I need to password explain, but it should default. And the only thing I need to select is the virtual machine, and I can even solve this with what we call compute profiles. So if I create a compute profile, let's say small for libvirt, so then and this is how this is used usually. It's storage pool of 10 gigs. How Foreman is used. You usually define a host group, you define a compute profile, and then it's really...
So a compute profile is just a parameter, right, that you set? It seems the same as parameters. Is that right?
Yeah, it works the similar way as the host groups, but it's not nested, and it works across all the compute profiles. Compute resources. So you can define a small instance on a libvirt, and you can then define the same small instance on VMware, and so you can.
So it's the same thing as host groups and hosts, except it's for parameters.
Yeah, it's for this tab, not parameters.
Yeah,
virtual
virtual machine.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it just is weird that they're named two different things, but they're the same thing. Just one's a template for it, basically.
Good point. Yeah. But as I've said, compute profile is a different from host group in the meaning of that you
compute profile and virtual machine, right? Those are the same thing, except compute profile can be used across the system.
Right, across the compute resources. So you can, if I create a new one like Amazon EC2, I could create the same small compute profile for both. I would
it just seems weird that they're named different things and they're the same, really. Essentially, just they're used slightly different. That's all.
Yeah, but they're not same. So let's see if this works. And it's hour and a half now. It doesn't work for some reason. I didn't give it a port. I forgot. My instance is running on 3000 whatever. It works. And I can start. You can imagine start installing and that kind of stuff. What we can do is we can. I can show you. Discovery, which is important because it's widely used in Stake-Off project, which is an OpenStack, Red Hat OpenStack installer, which is based on Foreman, and it's widely used there. So I can enable it real quick and show you how it's very easy how it works, how it looks like. So let me reboot this one and let me go here and. And let me vim my local, and let's enable boot to see more. I need to restart my server, which I'm running in a different window. Not sure what happened with the recording, but It's restarting now. Didn't work out. Oh, I'm just restarting at that point. I'm just restarting my Foreman instance, so we couldn't download Kickstart. So I think this is the last one. I need to restart it. So we're back. We're back. My instance has been restarted, hopefully. Hello, dashboard. And the plugin should be enabled now. Okay, we should see that we have Foreman boot disk discovery. Example for Foreman boot disk is also a nice plugin you can create if you for some reason you're not able to configure DHCP. For example, your IT is running Windows or they won't allow you to integrate your Foreman. You can create a boot disk using this plugin. It will, if I click on that, it would create a new ISO file. Oh, I have an older plugin which doesn't work with the version I have. But it would allow me to download ISO file that can be turned into a USB signal or something else, and you could use that to boot your servers. So interesting is this is how our plugins work. They can add new buttons. They can add new menu entries. So it's pretty much flexible. So since I've installed Discovery from Discovery, I can spawn a new host. Discovered host. So with this command, I'll simulate a new host that was added to my infrastructure and boot it up. So it basically creates a new host without any disk, and it starts booting from network. So using that command, it starts. I don't have my Discovery template set up. It need more time. I need more time. Not sure I'm able to do that today.
That's okay.
I need to set up my version template because right now it will stuck booting from local disk. I need to change my default template to enable Discovery. But essentially, it's a new entry here. We have all hosts and we have discovered hosts, and we had discussion about that. This can be confusing because all hosts now doesn't show you all hosts. It only shows you host that has been created. And discovered host is a simplified page that shows you name, model.
Something that might be easy to fix that, I think, is just call it, instead of all hosts, just hosts. And then you could have your additional tab there.
The discussion is ongoing, I say. And here, once the host is discovered, it is created with the name of MAC. It starts with MAC and then a MAC address, and it has a provision button here, and it has few facts that has been discovered, like IP address, that kind of stuff. And once you click on provision here, you're taken to a new host form with bare metal, turned on. So it's bare metal, it's default, and on your network tab, the MAC address is already pre-filled in. So when you're dealing with many servers, you need to rewrite those MAC addresses on papers somehow, and then put them down and into your infrastructure, software, and that's that Foreman Discovery solves that for you. So you can then select everything. Everything is the same, except that you have your MAC address here. So you can, once you click on submit, there's one change. Once you click on submit, host that has been discovered automatically reboots and starts installing. So that's the way how Discovery plugin, which is not integrated here, unfortunately, how it works. And yeah. Oh, I can see it here for some reason. We can see it. Maybe, I don't know, maybe we already shipped the Discovery template, or somehow it was auto-configure it. I thought that I need to configure it manually. So this is how it works. It's Mac, and the MAC address without any separators. Here's the MAC address, or here's the IP address, and here's the MAC address it has. We can see it's some manufacturer. It's a virtual machine, so we don't see a real vendor here, and some other stuff. And once I click on provision, I can also refresh Macs. But once I click on provision, I can change it to test 3. I can select a host group, and as you can see, the MAC address is already there, so I can click on submit, and the machine should reboot. Oh, forgot to add a root password for some. I have a bug. This is no bug, I say, that I always need to enter some password. And this is it. It was created, and right now it's booting up. We can see it. I don't have a. I think I need to do list. Oh, sorry. It's still running. It's being rebooted, and it should show up. And if I go to discovered host, it should be empty. And it is, and it was registered under /host page, and it's booting up. And
that's fine.
We can see this one. Yeah, that's fine. Let's go back to the test 2 if that works or not. Maybe not sure.
What would be really helpful is if I could get this. Could you set up an instance of this with this stuff, with the plugins all on it and running, and that way I could click through and look at all the stuff, and after this is over, is that possible?
Sure. Ping me, and I can give you my daily machine. So I guess this is it. I'm going to stop this broadcast. Thanks, Kyle, for being here, and I really appreciate your time, and I really looking forward to see some recommendations from you to make some changes to make this more fun. Thank you.
No, thank you.